Hello and welcome to my Yu-Gi-Oh channel. Make sure to subscribe for more daily Yu-Gi-Oh content. So today we've got a brand new card which is coming out of Dawn of Majesty. It's called Carpiponica, Mystical Beast of the Forest. It's a level 7 Earth Attribute Beast type effect monster with 1000 attack and 2600 defense. You can only use this card's first and second effects once per turn each. 1. If this card is sent from the hand to the graveyard, you can target 2 other monsters with different types from each other. Beast, Beast Warrior, Winged Beast, Insect or Plant in your graveyard. Shuffle them into the deck, and if you do, special summon this card. 2. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add 1 Mystical Beast of the Forest or Mystical Spirit of the Forest monster from your deck to your hand, except Carpiponica, Mystical Beast of the Forest. Okay, so I've got very split opinions on the design of this card. For starters, you do have to send this card from the hand to the graveyard, and that has to be from a different effect. It's not actually within its own effect, so you do have to rely on having various other cards. I know you can have cards such as Raigeki Break, which can just trigger this with its discard cost, and you probably have archetypal support somewhere down the line that can do this as well, but it's not always that consistent. The ability to affect and reshuffle 5 different types of monsters actually represents what the Mystical Beast archetype seems to be able to do. They are a mixture of all of these types, so you're able to flexibly shuffle those cards back, a little bit like Pot of Avarice, except you don't get a bit of a draw effect from it. That's fine because actually it just lets you reuse those resources somewhere down the line. My concern with this card is, even though that's a decent enough effect, it's not a very livable card. It's got 1000 attack and 2600 defense. That means even though it can survive by being in defense mode, your opponent knows it's just a sitting duck, and really, once it's summoned, it doesn't have any trigger effects. As for the second effect, if this card being normal summoned or special summoned, you can search for any of the Mystical Beast monsters within the archetype. That's also fine as an effect. It acts as a searcher. But then again, after that, you don't have any effect from it. It being level 7 is actually quite useful. There's a brand new Xyz monster, which is a dragon type monster that works alongside this card, even though you do need another level 7 monster. And if one of those happens to be a dragon type Xyz material as well, that actually gives it a quick effect. As of time of recording, you've only got about 6 other monsters that cover this entire archetype. So we'll just have a quick look at these. The first one is Alpakaribu, the Mystical Beast of the Forest. It's a level 7 Earth Attribute Beast type with 2700 attack and 2100 defense. The effect, while in attack position, Winged Beast, Insect and Plant type monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle. While in defense mode, defense position, Winged Beast, Insect and Plant type monsters you control cannot be targeted by or be destroyed by card effects. This provides some level of flexibility, and it's not actually too bad of an effect. I just think it's very slow, and for this time it's just not that useful. Now this one's a little bit questionable, Mystical Beast of Circuit, simply because this was used by Odeon in the original series of Yu-Gi-Oh! Battle City, so this was the second series, and it didn't really have or was a member of an archetype. It was more simply a boss monster that Odeon seemed to use. An Earth Attribute Fairy type level 6 with 2500 attack and 2000 defense. The effect, if you do not control Temple of the Kings, destroy this card. Banish any monster destroyed by battle with this card. If this card destroys a monster by battle, it gains 500 attack. Like I said, it isn't really that much of an archetype of itself. It might simply be one of those cards that has an OCG name which is slightly different, which means that it's not classified within that archetype. Now this card is called Vereliforn, Mystical Beast of the Forest. It's an Earth Attribute Beast type tuner monster. It's level 2 with 400 attack and 900 defense. You can discard 1 card, then target 1 level 2 or lower beast monster in your graveyard, except Vereliforn, Mystical Beast of the Forest. Special summon it in attack position or face down defense position. You can only use this effect of Vereliforn, Mystical Beast of the Forest once per turn. I remember when this card actually came out. This was around the 5Ds era. Of course, it being a tuner monster. This was in Season 3, where they were facing Team Unicorn, and they specialised in using beast-type monsters, so this was very much alongside cards such as Thunder Unicorn, Baltic Bicorn, and Lightning Tricorn. And now we've got another card which is Karunratne, Mystical Beast of the Forest. It's an Earth attribute beast type level 2 with 200 attack and 1400 defense. The effect: if this card is special summoned by the effect of a beast monster, you can target one card on the field and destroy that target. It's not a bad effect, and actually it's relatively decent, because if you're able to use it off of your opponent's turn to be able to be summoned, because it's just a special summon of itself, it means that you can destroy any card your opponent controls, be it monster, spell, or trap card. I think this was also released around the Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's era. The next one is Uniflora, Mystical Beast of the Forest. It's a Earth attribute beast type level 1 with 700 attack and 500 defense. If all the monsters in your graveyard are beast type, you contribute this card, special summon one beast type monster from your hand or graveyard, except Uniflora, Mystical Beast of the Forest, but it cannot attack this turn. It's really useful for some of the beast type monsters if they've already been properly summoned. For example, you had the monsters that I listed before about the Baltic Bicorn, Lightning Tricorn, and Thunder Unicorn. Those, if they've been properly summoned, can actually be summoned from the graveyard and revived through this effect. Alternatively, you do have the power-based cards, such as the ones that, like Barbados, which summon from the hand, and there are a series of those monsters. The most interesting thing I've got to say is the one card, and there's only one of them at the moment, which is called a mystical spirit. So I'm wondering if we're actually going to get many more of these cards, just considering that the other part of the deck seems to have been supported, whereas you've just got the one card with this. This is probably the plan for Konami within this pack. We still have a few cards yet to be released. Anyway, it's an Earth attribute plant type level 4 with 1700 attack and 1000 defense. The effect: when you take damage from the opponent's card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the damage you took. Also, both players take no further effect damage this turn. Essentially, it's able to kind of just special summon itself if your opponent does any card effect damage to you. Whilst it's not a bad effect, do I think it's that useful at the moment? No, it's not. I think until we see more support for the mystical spirits, maybe they will have more interaction around card effect damage and being special summoned, then that's fine. But this is the same effect as cards such as Damage Eater, and I'm sure there's things like Damage Mage as well, which can special summon themselves by feeding on your opponent's burn effect damage. Depending on the amount of burn effect damage your opponent is trying to apply to you, it can be game ending, but typically it won't be more than about 1000 points of damage, not usually enough to finish off your opponent. So personally, I think at the moment it's a little bit too close to call to say this card is going to be of any significant use. In the future maybe, but we still have to wait until further support for the mystical spirits has been released.